All right, welcome back to the Nooner. It's Against the Norm, hour number 2, and we're going to head straight to the Big Easy, Norm Rumack, as of course it's Super Bowl week and today's media day, and we got lots of guys on hand, and of course our own Josh Rimmer's down there. We heard from Josh Rimmer earlier today on the Perry Lefko show, Be My Guest. Now we are being hooked up with a 12-year NFL veteran, Eric Hill, who of course played the majority of his career with the Cardinals in Arizona, also played for the Rams and Chargers coming out of LSU. Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How's it going?
Doing very well, my friend. So you're down there in New Orleans. What are you doing right now?
Well, at this moment, I'm hanging out at the media center and at the convention center, at the Montreal Convention Center, just trying to suck up some of this Super Bowl buzz.
Absolutely. And obviously there's a ton of that in the Big Easy. There'll be a real party atmosphere all week getting set for the big game. What do you think? Who do you like here? Obviously, first time we've seen brothers going toe-to-toe with John taking on Jim. Jim Harbaugh's done an incredible job, 2 years with the Niners, now an NFC Championship game and a Super Bowl. John, since he took over in Baltimore, they've been a perennial contender. They've been around the playoffs every year. Their quarterback, Joe Flacco, wins every year. And here we are with these two Harbaughs going toe-to-toe. Who do you give the advantage to?
I think you couldn't have put together a better matchup. Obviously, I'm a played middle linebacker in my day, and so obviously, I want to see a game where some great defense is going to be played. So I don't think we're going to be anything short of that. But I give the edge to San Francisco just because of what the quarterback brings to the deal. I just think anytime you have a quarterback with those kind of skill sets, he becomes a problem. And he's been very problematic since he's gotten the reins in San Francisco.
Eric, I'll introduce myself. It's Norm Rumack. I also host a show here on Nextsportstar.com. You're referring to Kaepernick. With the Ravens' defense, we know that they're tough as nails, and they managed to overcome John Elway. I mean, partly because of the Broncos' own mistakes. Fair enough, but the bottom line is they beat him, and Broncos were probably favored by 2,000 points or something like that. So with that in mind, what do you think, aside from keeping a spy in terms of watching Kaepernick, but with it, knowing that he's got this, he's got Olympic speed like a track star would. He's got a great arm. So he's not your run-of-the-mill quarterback, as you're alluding to. What's the best the Ravens can do, Eric, not to stop him, but to control him?
Well, I think, the defensive line has to be very disciplined, because I'm not really thinking about, for whatever the option or whatever it is that they call that fear or whatever when he runs, hides it. You don't know if the running back has it or he has it. Not really talking about that. I'm talking about more or less just his normal drop back. And if you decide to get in man coverage, he becomes very problematic because if your D-line is not very disciplined and stand in their lanes, I mean, he can step in the pocket and turn nothing into something. And I think, those are the things that the Ravens has not had to deal with throughout the playoffs. I mean, think about the teams that they've played. They've played quarterbacks that stay in the pocket. Mm-hmm. The first time that they faced a guy like this, and I don't think you can't practice that enough because, you're not getting at full speed.
Yeah, you're right, because as I was pointing out, like with Elway, you're right. Elway's primarily a pocket passer, so they didn't have to, and then no one's ever had to worry about John. Pardon me. No one's had, I meant Manning. Forgive me for that. Two quarterbacks, same team. But anyway, with Manning, with Peyton Manning, he's almost always been primarily, with few exceptions, a pocket passer. So you're right that they didn't have to worry about him scrambling when they played the Broncos.
No, I mean, you go in there in your game plan. I mean, you're playing against the Peyton Manning. Yeah, can he hurt you with his arm? Yes, he can. But, he doesn't move around a ton in the pocket. He's a systematic quarterback, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, gone. Tom Brady, the same thing. The kid in Indiana, he's a better athlete. The young kid in Indiana, I'm trying to think of his name, the rookie, Luck. But he's not a running quarterback. He has the ability to run, but he's a vertical guy. Tom Brady, hell, he can't outrun me right now.
We saw that with Brady on a 4th and 4 when all he had to do was beat Haloti Ngata on a play, and he didn't run. You're right. I mean,
he turned it down.
He did turn it down. It took a lot of flack for that. You're absolutely right. This will be a much different challenge. They do have 2 weeks to get ready for Kaepernick, and you think of who Baltimore plays in the regular season. They do play a Ben Roethlisberger in the division, who obviously is very elusive, but he was hurt for actually both of the games this year. They played Charlie Batch and Byron Leftwich in those 2 games. And then the game they played against Washington with RG3, he got hurt in that game, and Kirk Cousins came in. So really, Baltimore avoided these very mobile quarterbacks this year on their schedule based on those guys being injured. What kind of inspiration has Ray Lewis given the Ravens, in your opinion? I mean, he obviously makes the announcement before the playoffs that he will be retiring. And, you look after every time the Ravens win a game, there's Ray Lewis on the field, tears in his eyes, looks like a warrior, but you can just tell the emotion that he's playing with and that the teammates are playing with. Obviously, it seems to have really given this team a lift. How smart was it for Ray Lewis to make that announcement right before the playoffs started?
Here, I want to finish one question.
Sure.
But jump into that. When you talk about, as far as RG3, when he played against the Ravens, so he was actually having success against.
He was, until he got hurt and Kirk Cousins came in. That's right.
And so he was problematic. That style of guy, they were having trouble with him. Then he got hurt, and then the whole thing changed.
That's right.
But as far as Ray Lewis, put it this way. Ray came in the game when I was still playing, and obviously, he's done so many wonderful things. Hell, he inspired me when he did what he did. Yeah. And I've always watched guys and try to, look at the next linebacker and understand that Ray is a rare guy. He is one of those guys that comes around in an era, and he just excels to heights that's beyond. And anybody, I don't know Ray personally, but I talked to a few people that have played with Ray and know Ray, and they say it's not an act. God lives it. He wakes up. He inspires people. They say, man, when you're around the guy, you say you get the chills because this guy is going to bring. He gives it all. They say he gives it all in the meeting room. He gives it out on a practice field, and he gives it out on a football field on Sundays and Mondays. And they say, when the guy, when he shows up, they say we know. That's when we feel good. When Ray walks in the building, they say, you know what? Now we can relax. That's what he brings to the team. And so for him to decide to make this his last hurrah, I'm kind of glad because he's not a spring chicken anymore, and I'd hate to see him get hurt.
Yeah.
But I mean, the guy's still playing high-level football, at 37 years old.
He leads the playoffs in tackles right now, so you're absolutely right. He's still an impact player.
Yeah, he's still playing. He's still playing at a high level. Yeah. But for him to take that team, I mean, like you said, I mean, they went to Denver and everybody had already dug the hole for them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And win the way they've been winning, I'm pulling for Ray personally. That'd be a hell of a way to go out. I just think San Francisco just offered a little bit more than they could handle.
Hey, Eric, just curious, you and Eric Cohen were talking about Robert Griffin III. I just wanted to go back where he got left in that game, and it was quite clear to everybody watching. I mean, the guy was like a sitting duck. He couldn't move. He'd lost his mobility. Right. That knee was not just like problematic. It was trouble. He couldn't move at all. I'm still shaking my head to this day. Shanahan, would know better than anybody else. If his quarterback can't get out of the way of oncoming defensive linemen and linebackers, and he's leaving him in. And finally, when he went down, he couldn't get up again, even wearing that brace. Like his knee looked like an elastic band that got cut. I mean, wasn't Shanahan playing with fire? Like, you got a decent backup quarterback. Like why are you risking the guy's career? I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a twofold issue. And here's the problem with professional athletes or any athlete at any level. Sometimes you have to protect. There has to be somebody to protect us from ourselves. And the hardest thing for an athlete to say is I can't do it. Mm-hmm. And if anybody, that's hard. Any guy that has played at a high level and has had a lot of success doing it, that's one of the hardest things to say is I can't do it.
And that's where I think Shanahan should have stepped in, knowing that, because Shanahan, Eric, wouldn't he know that better than anybody, right, about his athletes?
I agree with you 100%. At some point, that's when, you have to just say, you know what, son, it's over. You can't help us right now because you know what? He couldn't help him. Yeah. And he was putting himself in more danger.
That's right.
And that's where all logic has to come in because, we are who we are. We're built that way. We were born that way. We are not going to throw in the towel. Somebody else to tell us we have to stop. And that's where Shanahan should have drew the line in the sand at that point.
Yep.
Eric Hill, 12-year NFL veteran, and obviously you can speak with firsthand knowledge because I'm sure there were many times when you kept yourself in a game, you didn't want to come out, you played through pain. I know a lot of these guys for years and years before all the studies were done on head injuries and trauma and all that, they would suffer concussions and stay in the game because that's just, as you said, that's what you guys are programmed to do. So obviously as an NFL fan, we appreciate it, and at least now they seem to be taking, more precautions as far as player safety, which is nice. Even though it seems to be a bit of a double-edged sword because while Roger Goodell wants to do that, he gets himself in trouble. Yesterday, Bernard Pollard makes a comment that the game won't be around in 30 years because of all the rule changes and that basically they're taking football out of the game when you obviously start having harsher penalties for what used to be legal hits. How do you see this dilemma that Roger Goodell now faces where he's trying to, help player safety, but he gets himself in big trouble with things like Bountygate and with current players who don't like some of the new rules?
Yeah, it's a catch-22. And, there's no, in a lot of cases, there's no right and wrong answer. I think here is at the end of the day, you need to put, you can't, there's a set of rules that have to be in place. If the guys cross that line, then they're penalized. But at the end of the day, it's a very physical game. Kids are getting bigger, stronger, faster. That is not going to change. Obviously, we have to look at the technology of the equipment, but at the end of the day, the guys that are coming out nowadays, you have linebackers that are running 4.5, 4.40s now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
My day, you didn't really, that was a rare guy. You know what I mean? That was a rare guy.
Now it's the norm.
Now it's the norm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, speed brings power. Power brings bigger hits. You know what I mean? That's the truth. That's scientific. That's going to happen. And so there's only so much you could change. And I ain't saying make peace with it. It's only so much you could change. And the problem that the NFL has now is whether or not, trying not to admit that we knew this all along. That's right. Their biggest issue. Right. Because of the lawsuits and everything that's going.
Yeah.
Because that thing retros all the way back. And that could be, who knows? That could be monumental. That could be bankruptcy. You know what I mean?
That's right, and that's where Roger Goodell's got to be so careful because if he doesn't do the right, doesn't try and change the game and the culture, then you're right, more pending lawsuits about knowing the injuries and not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
So, listen, Eric Hill, really appreciate you coming on. I know you're down in New Orleans. Tell us about your dealership right now. It's a Nissan dealership. Where can our listeners and our viewers that are watching in New Orleans come and find you and find out about getting a new car?
The name of my dealership is Eric Hill Nissan. We're in New Orleans East. Our phone number is 504-245-5900. Our website is www.erichillnissan.com. And, hey, if we have to ship them to Toronto, we could do that.
Eric, you got a Canadian special for us?
Have it up here in about 30 minutes, okay?
All right, Eric Hill, we've got the website now on the screen, so all of our listeners can see www.erichillnissan.com. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks a lot, Eric.
And enjoy the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Thank you, sir. Nice talking to you guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
Thank you.
good talking to you. Eric Hill.
All right, thanks again to Josh Rimmer.
Absolutely.